I'll be doing three things in my speech. Firstly, on setup. Secondly, on framing. Thirdly, on to my argument. Firstly, on setup then. Few pieces of setup. Firstly, what is AI? We define it as like things like ChatGPT, Gemini, and things like that, where you don't know what happens, but if you ask for a question, it gives you an answer, and it's a complete black box. But secondly, what do we mean by rapid growth? We think this happens in three ways. Firstly, more money used in development of AI. This is like corporations spending so much more money in order to make their generative AI very, very good. But secondly, more people using it, even though we don't know what actually is happening inside it. Thirdly, we think that this is happening in a large scale. This is like self-driving cars, or using it in corporations, or making it in leadership places where you actually need so much decision in so many places that are really, really strict. Now, compared to our side, what we're going to say is that we're going to put temporary stops and hurdles to this development of AIs, and we're going to restrict the public from using these things. We're going to make sure that we're going to ask for people for permission by the governments in order for them to use the AI, in order for them to use it. Moving on to framing here. First, AI is a black box. We have never seen something like this in the past. We ask for a question, it gives you an answer instantly, but we don't know the process between what is happening here. Regulations are simply not enough. There are two reasons here. Firstly, because laws take so much time in order to take place. In order for you to get a regulation in place, you have to take so much time, but we don't have that. You don't have that in the status quo. But secondly, because politicians don't know what's happening here, therefore they can't make regulations without some time needed. So it's really hard for regulations to actually work and be actually in place on side opposition. Now, therefore, the implication here is that it's really hard for you to make a regulation that actually works, and it's really, really hard. Moving on to my argument on education here. Younger generations tend to use AI in a really bad way, which means that it's really harmful for their education. Three layers here. Firstly, on the status quo analysis, I'm going to prove two things in my status quo. Firstly, on why children use AI, and secondly, and why that's harming them. Firstly, three reasons. Firstly, because it's easier to use AI. If you ask for one question, it gives you an answer. If you ask for an essay, in one click, you get an answer. You get a 600-word essay in an instant, where you have to spend 2 hours working and looking up for documents. It's really hard work when you can actually get something in that short term, and it's so easy. Secondly, because students lack the time, right? We spend so much time on other things. We debate, we study, we spend time with friends, we watch the movies, we spend time with our girlfriends, or maybe imaginary, right? It's really important that we spend that time when we don't have that time, right? It's really important for you to do this, because you just don't have the time, and there's an assignment due tomorrow, and it's just 12 p.m. in the night. What are you gonna do? You just ask for AI and it gives you an answer. Why not use AI? And children use these AIs because they really don't care about, but then they get their assignments done. Thirdly, because it's addictive, right? When you ask for a question, it gives you an answer, and even if you didn't use AI in the first place, if you start using AI, you tend to use it multiple times because it's so much easier than doing your own homework, which means that these people constantly use AI repeatedly, and that is going to harm them in a negative way. Now, secondly, why is this bad then? Firstly, because they don't learn, right? In order for us to learn grammar, we need to spend that time in order to use grammar. Make so many mistakes, get corrected by our teachers in order to learn that grammar term, right? We've had, in our essays, we have to use it so many times, whereas when you ask for AI, it just gives you an answer. You just never learn, right? But secondly, you just stop using the ability to think for yourself, right? Rather than thinking of your thesis, of your argument, you just ask for AI and it gives you an answer, right? You stop thinking on your own. This is really harmful because this is really harmful in a negative way. I'll talk about that later. Now, moving on to the counterfactual. As my framing already mentioned, we're gonna have permission from the government, which means that children are most likely not be able to use AI on our side, which means that children have to use that time in order to work on themselves, or actually use that time to make sure that they can actually finish their assignments on time and do things that are really important. This means that children actually learn something on our side compared to nothing on their side. Now, the impact here is the quality of education here, right? The rising of the next generation is really, really important, right? Because they're the next ones who actually make this generation, and it's really simply important here, right? And it's really important for them to actually make decisions on their own. Because we live in a democracy, we have to be able to make decisions on our own rather than getting answers from AI, right? This is one of the most important core things that make our society, which means that being able to make a decision is really important. But then because they stop using the ability of think on side opposition, they just cannot make decisions. Moving on to my second argument on how there's large-scale accidents, 3 layers here. Firstly, on their side analysis, what happens on their side. Firstly, we can't prevent these things because we don't know what happens. We don't know what is the process of them being able to drive on their own. We don't know that, which means that it's really hard to prevent these accidents from happening. But secondly, it's going to stop. Nobody can take accountability for what they do, right? We don't know who to take accountability because it's the AI who made the accident, but we don't know who is it. Is it the person who made who developed the thing or developed the AI, or is it the person who was on the car? We don't know, right? Therefore, it's really hard. But then already in the US, Tesla cars are already driving on their own. It's just really, really extremely bad, right? Moving on to how it happens less on our side. Firstly, because we do more research here, right? We try to spend that more time. We take so much more accountability. That doesn't make sense. We use so much more time. We use so much more research, which means that we understand what AI is. We understand how it works, right? But secondly, people actually understand AI much more, even though normal citizens, right? The reason for this is because we're curious about AI. We have incentives to know about AI because we don't know what is AI. Therefore, we're more going to be knowing about AI, which means that as citizens, we understand more about AI, which means that we're more likely going to be able to prevent accidents like this from happening here. What is the impact here? 2 impacts. Firstly, because we can prevent massive harms from happening here, right? Because we have actually proven to you that we spend that more time doing research, we actually get that thing more. We understand the mechanism behind these things. Therefore, we're more likely going to be able to prevent these massive harms from happening. Secondly, it's morally bad to have people self-driving cars on the streets. This is because governments have the obligation to protect their citizens, which means that governments need to make sure that their citizens are safe, and making policies or not making regulations about these things are going to be damaging these people, damaging citizens, because they don't know what's happening here, right? It's really important for these people to understand and make regulations after they have done the research. Very proud of those.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for that wonderful speech. Now I call upon Leader of Opposition to introduce their case within 7 minutes. Hear, hear.
First of all, time starts now. Thank God we have AI, right? We have so much things that we can do it with AI, and we are just simply so proud to oppose just because of that thing, right? Integration of AI is not replacement, as they state. We say that the integration of AI is key to the development of this world whatsoever. Upon that, one note on framing. First, on AI, right? We say that once again, AI is rather a supplement rather than a replacement. We are humans. In the end, humans are the people who are using AI. When that's the case, we say it's very unlikely for these AI systems to literally replace people whatsoever, right? Upon that, 2 notes on 4 rebuttals on opposition, on government side, right? First, on their point on education, they state that it's easier to use AI, and people would just keep on depending on these things, right? Obviously, that's not the case, because we do have these things called tests where you actually do have to study with. If you're using AI for every single homework that you're doing, you're probably not going to succeed in these tests and thus get a bad grade. The students already have an incentive to study for this test, and rather, it would be rather better for them to have AI simply because it's easier for them to study, do research, those kind of things. As they have mentioned, it's easier to study with the use of AI. Thus, education is far better on our side of the house. Second, on other activities, right? We say that we can actually prioritize on other activities with the integration of AI. If I want to do debate, and if I have loads of homework that I have to do, I can deal with the homework that's not so important, and I can still get my GPA up to like 4.0, and I can still work on my other activities. Because we're in a world, or like we're in a paradigm where the workload is absolutely crazy, the use of AI actually allows us to integrate ourselves into these other activities as well. Third on simply the whole education system, right? We say it's rather good for education systems to integrate AI simply because it shifts to an education system where it's not just memorizing, not just all about AI and stuff, right? It rather makes a place where you actually have to study, actually have to learn these new skills, and actually integrate that into tests and those stuff. And second note on accidents, they say that, okay, accidents are far likely to happen on our side of the house. Which side's more likely to have accidents, right? A side where everyone's like drunk and stuff, right? And what if like those drunk people just use automated cars that are much more safer on our side of the house? When that's the case, we say that accidents are far less likely on our side of the house simply because, okay, they talk about the thing about accountability. Okay, that's obviously going to be on the human that's riding on it, or even for the automated taxis. And that's the case, it's far less accidents, at least on the practical view, right? And then moving on to our points. First point, on sustainability and productivity. AI leads to the creation of sustainable technologies that are currently priced, right? They can cut off manual work, the research and development with the use of AI on things like environment, health, things that are expensive and people generally don't want to do. General companies can integrate AI to actually act within these fields. There will be an incentive and capacity for these general companies to actually opt into these fields and perform research development in those fields that are actually needed. And that leads to my second point of enhanced social welfare services, right? On the premise of this argument is that AI development is very likely to be open and public. Applications to field that are not yet integrated is obviously going to be assumed. Health, transportation, engineering. It currently lacks people due to the fact that it has very high stakes, right? You need like a medical degree, those kind of stuff, to even get a job in these places. And simply, people don't even want to do these jobs in the first place. Things like, for example, caring for old people, right? There's a significant lack of workload within that community. However, because people just don't want to do it, we have significantly lack the workload that will actually work in there, right? AI can be integrated into these fields and that currently lack people. The places that are insufficient, so small social welfare services would enhance. 2 layers of mechanism. 1 on integration, not replacement. 2 on barricade mechanisms. Integration, not replacement. 3 layers under this, right? 1 on AI is being used as humans, right? AI is not the best at multi-platform work, right? You can't use Excel and Unity at the same time to do programming, right? It's not the best at doing multi-platform work that's done. And thus, AI is in the end used by humans after all. And second, on government incentive to not let out a bunch of homeless people, right? Even at the best case, let's say like some sort of job loss action, some kind of replacement actually happened in the real world, right? There's regulation that sustain the workload. Job loss isn't expected as a state. Like, there's obviously going to be a barricade mechanism that move upon this moral obligation by the government to sustain the people's works, right? And third, on AI, it doesn't replace; it rather fills in, right? The example here is simple, like for example, the convenience store, the self-registration in the convenience stores. Both AI and humans perform that task, right? With cashiers mostly being AI, humans can do jobs that only they can do, right? Dealing with, like, for example, claims and old people, right? Jobs even in the convenience store, there's jobs that AI can't even do, right? What used to happen back then was everyone was becoming a cashier and there was no one to actually work with the customers, right? With AI filling that spot, we have a sufficient amount of workload that helps the sufficient amount of need, right? And second, on barricade mechanisms, the enhanced social welfare programs. So Gov would probably expect a bunch of job loss, right, in this case, right? Like, to an extent at least, right? Some jobs would maybe get replaced and some jobs might have less monetary compensation. However, this is significantly less than the enhanced social welfare that they're going to achieve because there's strong incentive to reinforce social welfare systems, right? They have the capacity and incentive to do so. On incentive, public opinion, and social pressure, the general public wouldn't want these social welfare programs to deteriorate. In addition to that, they have the principal moral obligation by government to set baseline for the well-being of these citizens. And on capacity, simply put, with the use of AI, they have increased productivity and a decrease of human costs to integrate these AI programs into these social welfare programs. With that, we say that the medicine and the engineering and research and those kind of things that are not yet done, where there's absolutely a room to fill in those fields, these AI is going to be integrated, and jobs that are not filled in are going to get filled in, right? The principle is simple, right? Which side better fills the practical also wins on the principle. They say things like moral obligation. They say things like the moral necessity for these governments to make regulations. But if we're making a safer society, that's the side that's morally winning as well. Like a side that brings these, like, forces these drunk workers to not use automated cars, and we bring a side where these drunk workers use automated cars for safer driving, right? Because we integrate AI instead of replacement, we are so proud of the process.
Great, thank you for the wonderful speech. Now I call upon Deputy Prime Minister to extend their case within 7 minutes. Hear, hear.
The crucial thing that side opposition misses is that they say integration happens. But what my first view of mechanization on how we don't know much about AI proves is that that integration is being done in a bad way in the status quo. What we've proven to you is that we can utilize AI better under our side because we have more time to understand the ramifications of what AI does in the real world and stuff like that. Which means that even if we do concede that there are so many heaps of benefits that comes with integrating AI in our life, we think that if we can, because we have clearly shown to you already why the integration is likely to happen in a bad way under their side when it's rapid, and better when we can regulate it, then prevent the harms that occur with it, we think that then we can co-opt their benefit without the harm. Okay, let's just clearly, before doing some responses, I'll just clearly mechanize to you why we can co-opt the benefit of like AI being integrated. I think this is because, I'll prove why we'll still develop AI like in the future under our side, even though it's going to be slow, even though it's not going to be immediate. Why is this true? One, because corporations will probably still have the incentive to develop AI to an extent, or like they would probably not just like collapse instantly, right? I think they would still exist under either side of the house, insofar as corporations know that AI is a very huge like blue ocean that they can go into, which means that they still have the incentive, even if the development is slow and the revenue that they get is extremely low right now, because that in the future, when we have all the regulations in place, when everyone uses it, they know that then they can have a lot of benefits, which means that corporations have the incentive to keep their team in place. I think the second mechanization is on like governments having the incentive as well. This is because they don't want to be out-competed by malicious actors, like for example, like I don't know, their political enemies using it for like military uses and stuff like that. So I think they still have the incentive to, keep the AI industry alive, but to not like pour it into public so that all of the harms don't exist. Okay, let's do some refutations on their case. The first thing they say is that they can do research and development faster. The first thing to say is that it's unclear how it occurs in a nuanced way that they say. If indeed AI is so competent that they can do research and development so quickly and it requires less cost, then I think in that case, researchers are likely to lose jobs. So therefore, they have to mechanize why it occurs in this nuanced way that they want to claim. How AI is competent enough to make things fast, but not enough to replace researchers. Secondly, I think research and development is unlikely to be as good with AI in it. Insofar as research and development requires a lot of like originality and innovation, which then AI only does like algorithms and generate things that are like the likely answer, which means that they probably won't have any like breakthroughs under their side when AI becomes the dominant tool in research. So we think then we flip their case and say that R&D is going to be worse under their side. The second argument they give is on social welfare, and how like social welfare currently lacks people and people who take care of elderly and stuff. I have three responses. One, these things that they cover is often manual labor. This looks like things that, as they say, like taking care of the elderly. So this is like unlikely to be replaced by AI to begin with, at the point in which I don't know why AI can like have arms, have legs. And so I think it is unclear to me why manual labor is likely to be replaced under our side of the house. This is likely to be done by AI under their side of the house. The second thing is that I don't think AI would be very good at social welfare. Because even if we take them at their best and say maybe they have like a special robot, we think that they don't understand human intimacy or human feelings, which means that these people who are vulnerable, who need care the most, who need people to understand you, these people would just be replied by a cold-hearted AI, and we think then we actually amplify the isolation and loneliness. So we think that then social welfare is going to be worse under their side if they use AI and apply it right now. Let's talk about education, right? They say that tests exist as well, and they're not just assignments. But I think even for tests, you can have past tests and pass down from your seniors and senpais and analyze what is the likely questions that are likely to arise. You can ask AI to do that, and I think then tests are also prone to our analysis not given by first speaker. Second thing is they say that research papers are more likely to be done faster on their side because they can do research easier. But it's unclear to me why children have the incentive to use AI only for researching and not just let them write the whole thing. I think what is likely is a slippery slope in which once you use AI and understand how powerful it is, how easy it is for you, you're likely to not be able to stop. You cannot stop using AI. You're likely to rely on them, and therefore you probably make the AI write the entire research paper to begin with. So it's unclear why the response actually stood to begin in the first place. So why is our claim on education important? We clearly told you that opinion formation is likely to be the skill to form your own opinions are going to diminish under their side, because when you're asked to write an opinionated essay, you just go for ChatGPT or some form of AI that gives you a generic blanket claim that is not necessarily unique to your experiences and stuff like that. So you don't have time, you don't have the experiences to discuss your opinions on political issues, for example, with your classmates in class and stuff like that. Or you don't have the experience to flesh out your own political ideologies by writing papers and stuff. Okay, sure.
You state that AI is going to slowly develop in your world. How would the deterioration of education not happen in your world when AI is already accessible?
Okay, so my first speaker told you that in our framing, we're gonna make people ask governments and get their permission before certification, I guess, before they can use AI. Which means that then under our side of the house, it's unlikely that public people have that large of an access to AI, and so AI is unlikely to be in schools to a large extent that degradation occurs. Okay, let's talk about the harms then, because the only response they give is there's gonna be less accidents because it's better than drunk people driving. But I think their claim on drunk people actually explains our analysis well. That is, when AI is developed in the first place and when technologies are developed, the consideration aren't enough. As in, for example, you don't really consider how drunk maybe how a drunk person pushes a button differently, and so that malfunction is likely to occur when you don't have enough research being done to understand what kind of situations and scenarios are likely to be the application of that technology. The second response they give is liability is obviously the people who are driving. The problem is it's not obvious. I think people there's literally real discourse being done about whether the responsibility goes to the person who is driving or whether the responsibility goes to the AI who is making the decision, because there's dissonance between the individual person and the entity that is driving the car. I think that dissonance creates a unique problem that is not solved yet, which means that all of these harms that my first speaker told you would manifest to a very large extent, and therefore, because we protect people in terms of the education, but also the massive risks that come with AI under their side of the house, very proud to propose.
Great, thank you for the wonderful speech. Now I call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition to extend their case within 7 minutes. Hear, hear.
Hi, I am Emma Soyama, and I am the second speaker of the opposition side. I'm the second speaker of the opposition side, and my time starts now. In my speech, I would like to be doing three main things: 1, refutations; 2, reconstruction; and 3, lastly, weighing. First, on refutations. They say that, AI is a black box and that it is used in decision positions. However, we strongly disagree with this. AI will never be used in decision positions, or things like CEOs or management positions, because AI will be used in menial, repetitive labors. For example, in healthcare, just asking questions when the patient comes. This is the type of labor that AI will be replacing. We do not see how AI or why AI will be doing decision positions when that is the most important positions. And us humans know that. We do not see any incentive or any mechanisms on this. Second, they say that, it is harmful to students. First they said that, it's easier to use AI for essays and homework. However, first of all, this is not unique to AI. You can just go on Quora, you can go on Reddit, you can go on Yahoo, Chiebukuro. You can ask any of these places to help you with your homework, write essays, and you'll still get the exact same thing. Thus, we do not see much of a change on this side. Second of all, they say that, people lack the time, students lack the time, which is why they rely on AI. However, we say that this is worse on their side. We are saying that students don't have the time, thus they use AI to, for example, do homework. At least then they will go through the homework. This is what I need to know about. I'm just gonna ask AI to do the homework. On their side of the house, as they have said, students don't have time. What do you do when you don't have time and you need to turn in your homework? You don't do it. This is the counterfactual that they are providing. Students will not do their homework anyways. At least on our side of that house, they are actually using AI to actually know about what they're actually doing in school. Third of all, they say that, learning is the most important part. However, we say that AI facilitates learning. For example, we say that, homework is not everything. There are tests, and they say that, but you can just look at your senpai's tests and have AI analyze that. Two responses. One, tests will be adapted to go against these things. They won't use it. Yeah, sure.
So in order to adapt, you need time for teachers to understand and implement these regulations. Under your side, you only prove the benefits of AI. Why is rapid development necessary?
We don't see how teachers can't regulate these AI. All they have to do is just provide something different from the past tests, because they know that students will use it to analyze past tests, right? So they will obviously throw in a different question. We just do not see the delta in this debate. Furthermore, for things like finals, SATs, Japanese college applications, these are all done by tests. And even if they say that, students can use these AIs to make patterns or figure out what it is, they still have to learn what is analyzed. They still have to learn the patterns. They're still learning. That is the most important thing. On their side of the house, they don't have time. They have no escape route, meaning they do not study in the first place. Thus, we say that we win on that point. Lastly, they say that, not lastly, for 81, their counterfactual is that, the government will control it. The government will create regulations. However, they themselves have said that laws take time. Laws need politicians. Things like that. We just do not see how this changes on either side of the house. They say that, the government will regulate it. How long does it take for the government to regulate that? Is it going to be 20 years, 30 years, 100 years? At that point, we see more disbenefits on our side of the house in this time frame. Secondly, on their 82, they say that, there's things like large-scale accidents, and one, we can't prevent it because AI is a black box, and two, that there's less accountability. However, to these large-scale accidents, I have two responses. One, humans are far more vulnerable to error, right? These AI self-driving cars, they are rigorously tested, and most of them aren't even on the streets right now. Most of the large-scale accidents that they were talking about is done by people. It can be drunk people. It can be people who are just a little sleepy. This is not the bulk of the large accidents that happen. Second, with the rise of AI, there will be more high-quality AI because companies have the incentive to do so because they know that there is profit there. Meaning that the AI that is used in self-driving cars, the quality will increase, making it safer. We are providing a safer alternative while they are saying, no, we're not going to do any research. We're just going to strictly regulate it and have people, just drunk people or sleepy people, go on the streets and drive. Second, on their accountability, they say that, because it's AI, we don't see who will take accountability. However, I don't see how accountability is the point here. If a self-driving car were to cause an accident, that AI will probably never be used for the rest of in the company's lifetime. So we do not see the impact or the relevance here. Lastly, they say that, citizens can learn more about AI because the government will put on regulations. We simply do not see why this creates an incentive for citizens to learn more about AI. What about the government regulating AI is so appealing to them? We rather say that AI is such a hot topic right now because it's rising so, developing so fast. We say that there is rather more of an incentive for citizens on our side of the house to learn more about AI because it's something they can use. On their side of the house, citizens can't use AI. Why would they care about something they can't use? Lastly, they say that, but there's a slow rise of AI and the incentive still exists for companies and governments to do so. We agree, there's an incentive because it's so appealing. However, we do not see how long this takes. How will the government regulate it? We do not see any way for the government to regulate it so rigorously as they say and make it so safe when they themselves have said AI is hard to regulate because it is a black box. Lastly, they say that, opposition side has said, why can opposition claim that AI is competent enough to be productive but not replace researchers? Think of a healthcare setting. You go to the doctors. What will AI do? They will ask you, what's your name? What's your age? What's your symptoms today? That is as far as AI can go. The diagnoses, these things. AI can't say, doctor, here are the options. What do you think? And the doctor is the one in the decision-making position. This is what we are talking about. AI can only do menial labor. It can only do the repetitive tasks that it was programmed to do. Thus, we say that, again, AI will only be integrated and not replace people. Lastly, on their point on how AI doesn't know what drunk people will do because AI isn't analyzed right now, we actually flip this argument and say that because AI won't be researched as much on their side because there is no incentive, on our side AI is safer and thus self-driving cars and things would become more advanced so that these accidents will not happen. Thank you.
Great, thank you for the wonderful speech. Now I call upon opposition reply to conclude their case within 4 minutes. Hear, hear.
Government side while simultaneously telling us that they're going to create regulations for AI and then wait for all the mistakes to be fixed, and then to implement AI, it's going to magically fix all the mistakes that AI have been making and to prevent all things such as like people cheating in education using AI in a very bad way. I think that this is a really vague definition that they give us. They don't give us any time frame. How long will this regulation actually take? Will it be 5 years? Will it be 10 years? Will it be 20 years, right? Because for instance, if it is 20 years, I don't get the incentive for companies to keep their companies working and like actually trying to fix AI and fix the mistakes of AI when the actual public cannot use it. They're most likely not going to be profiting from their AI and from company and by fixing AI because the general public is not even using AI, which is really, really bad. I don't get the incentive for these companies to keep trying to fix their mistakes if the public cannot use it, right? I think that there's not much incentive for AI companies to regulate and fix when they're not making money. I don't understand why the rise of AI cannot fix these issues, right? For example, right, when AI is being more developed, when more companies are using AI, right, they're more likely to learn from their mistakes, right? AI will more likely learn from mistakes, learn from accidents that happen. AI is generally less likely to also get in accidents compared to humans because humans, there's so many variables that humans have to take into account. For example, right, things like fatigue, like sudden heart attacks that happen, right? There's so many uncontrollable variables that happen when humans have to, for example, drive, right? And when AI is constantly being processed, when AI like mistakes are being constantly checked, right? I think that this creates a completely more safer environment for people to actually like drive and to like get into less accidents. I think that this is far more preferable than waiting like 10, 20 years, which they have not even defined to us yet, right? Waiting 20 years when we don't even know if AI companies will actually sustain, especially if they're not going to make any money. I just don't see how they can have it both ways, right? They can't have it both. They can't have both the benefits that AI that give and also avoid the harms of AI. I think that we simply win on more magnitude because we are able to create more productive, we're able to be significantly more productive and have more like sustainability, as well as we're able to help like more like social welfare programs, right? Okay, onto like everything that the government side have tried to tell you. They tried to tell you one, right, on education, AI is like really, really bad, right? It's like people are gonna use it for like all their work. However, we've already given you that AI cannot do everything, right? AI facilitates learning, but it cannot do everything, right? For example, there are things like tests where like as second speaker has to tell you, like for example, for these entrance exams, you cannot use AI for these entrance exams, right? You have to obviously learn the material. You can obviously use AI to like learn the material and then apply it towards entrance exams, but you cannot use it to try to actually pass the entrance exam. They have not like actually mechanized that well, right? And I also think that if AI is integrated, like testing in schools are more likely to adapt to like less memorizable testing, which means that just using AI will not get you anywhere, right? These schools are more likely to adapt to these systems like Rising AI to like not make like tests where you can just literally use AI to complete everything. It's more likely to be like essay type like tests or whatever, right? Things like AI essay checkers do exist. I think that this completely does falls on their side of the house. Second, on like large scale accidents, they tell you that that like there are a lot of accidents that happen with AI. I've already told you that humans are more likely to get into accidents because there are more variables. We've also given you that, for example, they give the argumentation about how no one will take like accountability. However, we've given you that the accountability will most likely fall onto the company of the AI that's creating the AI car. So I just don't see how like where that lands. Also, we've also told you that like things like drunk driving will be preventable in our side of the house when these AI will like develop. So I think that overall in this debate, we give you like two main things. We give you that one on productivity and sustainability. We give you that AI is able to create technology that is extremely beneficial to the environment. We've given you things like electric cars, O2 cars. AI can help create technology. Companies have incentive and capacity to do this because they have more incentive to create these cars because it's cheaper, faster, and they're like less likely to make mistakes when they're creating the good. And they also have a lot of capacity because there's more resources, right? And two, on social welfare services, we've told you that people right now, right, there's a lack of workers, and I think that it is a developing tool that can be effectively used, even though it might not be the best tool. Like they might not be able to understand emotions, but at least it is a tool that it can be used in those fields where those workers are not existent. I think that there's a large urgency to implement these in these fields, such as the medical field, like for example, using AI to like help with like surgery, and thus I'm so proud to
Wonderful speech. Now I call, last but not least, I call upon government reply to deliver their speech within 4 minutes. Hear, hear.
The problem of the argument, firstly on their social welfare and secondly on their research about and development, is that there's two things. Firstly, we do not understand the extent of their impact. It's very unclear. Like in both cases, what is the comparative, right? And second, it's not unique to rapid development, but rather on our side of the house, after a few years of research, we can understand the risks of using AI in social welfare. So we're much better. So propose. Okay. The first case was about how they can use like how they can have social welfare, and it's going to be cheaper because like AI can be the labor research. But to this, we say that it is unlikely for AI to be competent enough to be able to support humans to a huge extent, but not replace the job. So I don't really understand the case in the first place. But even if we take their best case, if we can prove why the harm that AI gives overrides the benefits that they give out is much bigger, we can win this debate. So is the harm bigger or the advantages bigger? So we say under this class we say two harms that we give out two harms. Firstly, we say that big accidents that is reversible is going to happen. This looks like first car accidents from like self-driving, and second like asking ChatGPT about your medical condition and getting like the wrong medical product. Okay, and to to our first example about car accidents, to this they say rather there's less accidents on their side of the house, but on their side of the house, you can't hold anyone accountable for the accident. You literally know the cause. If it was a human accident, you literally know the cause, so you can avoid it from happening the second time. But on their side of the house, we can't have anyone accountable. Thus, like after the accident, you don't know who will pay for the medical fee or who would pay after the accident. So, but even if this is a wash, the accidents on an individual level that is still exists uniquely on their side. This looks like the medical condition that is going to get wrong by ChatGPT. So why is our harms much bigger? Two reasons. First, weighing from irreversibility. So for example, if you damage yourself really bad in a car accident, your life is literally doomed. And also stuff like unplanned pregnancy. If you take the wrong pills and if you take the wrong pills, you might have to deliver your baby and you'll be financially and mentally very burdened. So we say because of the irreversibility, ours is much more severe. And secondly, on the vulnerability of actors. There are people who use AI in order to get medical support is most likely to be A, financially disadvantaged because they can't afford doctors to give proper diagnosis. And second, they're probably going to feel very isolated because this looks like teenagers who got unplanned pregnancy and can't open up to their parents about it, so they have to use AI. So because on their side of the house, there will be more irreversible harm for the most vulnerable people, I think the harm is much more bigger. And second harm that we give out is education. We say children think critically and independently better on our side, but to this they say there's things like tests, and they say about there's going to be tests like essay-based tests. However, we clearly told you that AI can literally write essays, so I don't understand why you can cut our case in that. And also, tests looks like memorizing everything, and I don't think this leads to a critical thinking, so I don't think tests can make educationally better for the children necessarily. And we say that it is really likely for AI to make quality of children's education really worse because of two reasons. The uniqueness of AI of being accessible to anyone, literally anyone, even elementary school people, and secondly on the speed of how much answer that they can give out. So without AI, these children will be at least try to learn from themselves, or at least try to interact with teachers, or actually ask teachers questions. So on our side, we have a lot more harm and that overrides the benefit that they give out.